Good morning. We're learning a Torah Parshas Eikev, and the Torah will discuss the Birkas Hamazon. It's called Ulehovin Sherish Tam Bris V'Torah. That's the title of the Torah. Jewish people entered the land. It was called Eretz Canaan, the land of Canaan, and the conquering of the land was we conquered the physical land, but the Maimah will discuss also how we ultimately conquered also the Canaan, the land of Canaan, Ha'elyono, which is the upper land of Canaan. So the Maimah explains that although in the time of exile, Israel, the physical Israel, is dominated by foreigners, but the spiritual land, it's eternal inheritance, and therefore it's always in the hands of Bnei Israel. What is the meaning of the spiritual land of Canaan? It's the arousal, is the awakening that Hashem is giving us. By doing so, He's, so to speak, acquiring the human beings, meaning He aroused them to do His work. And therefore, and as a reward for responding to this arousal, then comes the intense, what we call in Chassidus Avorabo, the greater love that is being gifted from above. So, we're going to discuss also what is Lechem in Hashemayim, heavenly bread, and what is Lechem in Oretz, what is earthly bread, supernal wisdom and lower wisdom, ultimate bitul and bitul ayesh, bitul ba'etzem and bitul ayesh. These two concepts will be discussed. We know that the first bracha in Birkas Hamazon is called Birkas Haman. Was instituted by Moshe Rabbeinu, and the second bracha is called Birkas Haaretz, which is the one that took us into the land. Ultimately, Yeshua is the one that crossed the Yarden, and he instituted Birkas Haaretz. So the bread from heaven came down through the merit of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is the source of Chokhmah, the ultimate bitul, and that's why he instituted the Birkas Hazan, we call it the Birkas Haman, Hazan Yisraelim Kule, which is thanking Hashem for the man. The second bracha is Birkas Haaretz, Lechem in Oretz, is bread from the earth, which one is representing the higher level of Chokhmah, and one is representing the lower level of Chokhmah. One is representing the higher level of bitul, one is the lower one. And the higher one gives the ability to have the lower level of bitul as well. So, look at the Maimah. Ulehovin Sherish Tam Kishu V'Chibu V'Shaychus Bris V'Torah Birkas Hamazon B'Sareinu V'Altiroscho Birkas Haaretz Shom Razal Kol Shalom Bris V'Torah. So, if you look at the second part of Birkas Hamazon, it says, we're thanking Hashem for the covenant that He made with us, and then we're thanking Hashem for bringing us into the land, and we're thanking Hashem for giving us the Torah. So there are three things mentioned: the bris and the Torah land. So the question is, why they're all put? What's the connection between the three? The covenant that Hashem is made with us, the circumcision, then the entering the land, and the Torah. And it says in the Gemara in Brachos 49a, the Gemara says that if you didn't mention all three, so you didn't do you did not say the bracha properly. Kol she'ein name bris v'torah v'kasos, if you didn't say bris, covenant, and the blessing for the land, you did not fulfill your obligation. We need to understand even a greater question. Now, the Birkas Ha'oretz is one of the Doraisa. How do we know Birkas Ha'oretz in this time is biblical? It's written in this week's Parsha, Parshas Eikev. You have to say bracha on the land. So one can argue that you should only say it when we are in complete domination of our land. How do we know that Birkas Ha'oretz is still applying today? And the question was even stronger because at the time this Maimah was said, it was way before even the establishment of the state of Israel. But even now, there are so many parts that are not in our domination. There's so many parts that are not in our control. The land was given to Avram in the merit of his circumcision. It's written Parshas Lech Lecho, V'nosati Lecho, I have given to you, Ulezaracho Acharecho, and to your descendants that would follow. Megurecho, the land of your inhabitant, the land where you are living, the land where you are residing, et kol Eretz Canaan le'achuz ha'solam, the entire land of Canaan for eternal inheritance. V'ato bris ishmo. Now you should guard my covenant. You, ato v'zaracho acharecho, ledoroisam, you and your descendants to follow for generations. We need to understand what's the connection between the inheritance of the land to the circumcision. Why was Avraham Avinu gifted the land after he did the bris? What's the connection between the two? Imagine I tell you, cut a piece of your finger, and therefore I'll give you a land. I'll give you a private island. What's the connection? I'm giving to you and to your descendants, and you should guard my covenant. So Hashem is promising, He's promising Avraham Avinu that through the mitzvah of circumcision, his descendants will merit to have an eternal inheritance in the land of Israel. So we need to understand the connection between circumcision and the Yerusha, this inheritance. Furthermore, Am Yisrael are faithful, are dedicated and committed to the bris even till this very day. I bet you the percentage of non-religious Jews, the circumcised kids, is very high.
I think so too.
And the fact is that they are still in other lands. V'em be'eretz acheres. V'oretz nisnu b'yizorim. and the land is controlled by others. By the way, even till today, if a lot of the decision making of Israel, in the government of Israel, if a lot of the decision making is due to what America will say, what Russia will say, what the world will say, then it's not really complete. You're not in complete control of the land. So the question is, where is Hashem's promise? Hashem said, you keep the covenant, and then therefore the land will be to you, to your offsprings. So there's two questions over here. So far is, what is the connection between bris and giving me this gift? Right? It's like, just to make it crystal clear, if you're a basketball player, what type of gift do you think you'll be gifted? You'll be gifted types of gift associated somewhat with your sport, right? You're not going to give a basketball player a shas, right? But you're going to give him, I don't know, a ball, you're going to buy him shoes, maybe jerseys. But you're not going to... What's the connection? Cut a piece of your skin, therefore your land is yours. Right. And the second question, okay, if that's so, we're keeping it. We're keeping the mitzvah of bris. Where's the promise? The truth is that Hashem's promise was fulfilled. It was niskaimu b'mashe nosan Avram v'us asher tzkno, and that Hashem has given Avram Avinu the inheritance of the land of Canaan. Ha'elyoinu beruchnius. Now this is a whole different thing. It tells you Hashem has given Avram Avinu. We touched it in the beginning. Eretz Canaan, ha'elyoinu, the upper land of Canaan. And this is truly inheritance to him and to his descendants. Mila is also at this time. And therefore, the bracha on the land is, at this time, it's still deraisa, still biblical. So the intention of this promise, when Hashem is promising Avram Avinu that through circumcision they will inherit this land for eternal inheritance, it's not only to the physical land, to the physical Eretz Yisrael Hagashmis, because in the time of exile it's given to strangers. Rather, it's speaking about Eretz Canaan Elyon, the upper, the supernal land of Canaan. So spiritually, it was given to Avram for eternal inheritance and to his descendants to follow, even when the physical land was destroyed. And therefore, the mitzvah of Milah is continuing forever, even at this time. And in the merit of this mitzvah, we are to inherit the land of Canaan, the supernal, spiritual land of Canaan, for everlasting inheritance. And that's why we still have to thank for this land that we are currently inheriting. To explain this idea, so this we mentioned in previous memorim, that the word Canaan means to be kanua, to be humble, to be subdued, to be in a state of nullification. It's also, the land Canaan can also means a merchant, a businessman. It says in the book of Yeshaya that Sechareo, its merchants, were ministers, kinaneh nichbod eretz, and they were the dignitaries in the land. And it says in the book of Isaiah that Kenan had in his hand a mozne, which means a scale weight. It was deceitful type of a scale. So we're going to explain. Vine tagar. What is tagar? Tagar is a merchant. Akoine is a mekach min amoicher. That's someone that is acquiring someone from someone else, right? From a seller. Buys from a seller. Whatever is on. How do you buy something? Two things have to happen. He takes the object, he acquires it, he brings it to his reshus. From one, I'm taking it from your domain to my domain. That's what acquisition is. Is the second part. I'm taking money and I'm putting it in your hand. Okay, so two things are happening. One, the object is being transferred into my domain. That money is going from my domain to your domain. The law, and by the way, in the Torah, all the movable object, true acquisition is being done by a Mashiach Agbo, pulling and uplifting it, and money being transferred. That's the nusach we said in davening. Koine hakol v'ugam kin al derech zeh. Hashem is acquiring everything. All the acquisitions, according to Torah, is b'meshicha, is through pulling it into your domain, and also with money. Hashem acquiring creation through these two ways. First Mashiach and then uplifting. Now Mashiach is pulling. So how does it go? The essence of Hashem is way above the world. There's no comparison between the worlds to Hashem. Even the original contraction, it was still for Hashem, it's a great descent. And with one scanning, so to speak, Hashem can scan the whole world, and he can see from one side, meaning he can see through all the generations. We said in the davening of Rosh Hashanah, it says in the Zohar that with one thought Hashem created the whole world, and it says it in the Mishnah in Avis, chapter 5, first Mishnah, through one utterance. So we know that the creation of the world was done through these two levels of Memala and Seviv. We discussed it many times. When Hashem thought originally to create the world, it was machshava achas, as the Zohar says, there was arousal of ratzin, of desire, of will to create the world, and that is a very high level, because it's still above the limited world and the different types of worlds. So, therefore, the way that they were created was not through Mamala Kolam, because Mamala is a inner enclosement. Rather, it was done through Seviv. Seviv is one thought, idea that encompassing the whole world. What is Seviv Kolamin? Mechaya Salamin. So Seviv Kolamin is a level that really gives life to the world, but how does it give life to the world? In an encompassing way, by surrounding them. So it says in Derech Mitzvah Secho, written by the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Lubavitcher Rebbe, that it's not makiv, means that it's not. We're not dealing with a godly power, godly energy that is enclosed. Rather, it's something that is surrounding. Now, when it comes to machshava achas, one thought that surrounds the world. So it says in the Mishnah, the world could have been created with one utterance, with one maimer. But on the other hand, Hashem created the world. It says asora mamos. There was 10 utterances that the world was created, and the created being is obviously differentiated from one another. They're connected, associated with the level of Memalakulam, and the godly power that is very contracted, limited, condensed into the according to the capacity of the worlds. But Hashem Himself is aloof, exalted, not only from this power of Memalakulam and the power that is invested in the world, this limited power that is enclosed in the world, rather Hashem is exalted infinitely, meaning it's limitless, even from this godly power that is invested in the world. Why? Because as Torah says, machshava achas. So from Hashem's perspective, anything that is associated with the world is considered something minute, something is insignificant. And to have from Hashem ultimately coming the order of degradation, when Hashem desired, He desired to do chesed. It's written in the prophecy of Micha that Hashem had desired to do chesed. From then on, it's dependent on what we do. Ma'aseh Tachtonim is what we do. There is Sa'usa Tatu, Sa'usa Deleilu. If we are creating an awakening by ourselves, meaning something that is initiated by us, it will create a reaction from above, an arousal from above. So once, before the world was created, it was kichofetz chesed, meaning it was not up to us. But once the worlds are created, Hashem built it in such a way that from now on, He gives us the way, He gives the ability to create the awakening. Meaning that now it's, in a way, it's up to us. That if we can create an awakening from below, initiate an awakening from below, it will create a response from above. So we'll stop here.